The ground scratched my knees as I tried to push myself up. The driveway felt rough under my palms, and even though the sun was shining above me, all I felt inside was cold. Before I could stand, my father's hand grabbed my wrist hard, yanking me backward like I was nothing. "Don't you ever block your sister's car again," he snarled, his voice sharp, his eyes full of anger. He dragged me across the ground like I was just a piece of trash. But I wasn't even blocking the car. I had only stepped out to grab a textbook from the porch when my sister suddenly decided she needed to leave that exact moment. Her high-pitched voice screamed from behind the wheel. "Dad. She's in the way again." And just like that, before I could even explain, before I could say a single word, my dad's temper exploded. He didn't ask questions. He didn't care. He grabbed me like I was the problem. My mom stood nearby on the porch, arms crossed, sipping her iced tea, like this was just another ordinary day. No shock. No concern. Just silence. "She wants to live here for free and take up space," my mom called out. Then she smirked and added, "That trash can's finally got some use." And before I could even breathe, my dad shoved me straight into the trash can. The lid banged against the side as I fell inside. The smell was horrible. Rotten food. Old bags. It clung to my skin and hair. I tried to get up, but the way I landed made it awkward and humiliating. And then I heard it. The sound of my sister, Lena. She was standing by her shiny car in her sundress, holding up her phone, recording me. Her laugh cut deep. "Finally in a place that fits, huh?" I was 25 years old. I had no job yet, no money, still applying for entry-level research roles after graduating in biochemistry. I had been staying at my parents' house for just a few weeks, saving for a tiny apartment. But every single day there felt like punishment. When I was younger, my dad wasn't always like this. He wasn't warm, but he wasn't cruel. He was strict, serious, but not hateful. Things only changed when Lena turned 15. That's when she became the center of everything. She got private dance school. She got trips to France. She got new clothes every season. She got all the attention. Me? When I asked for something small, like new shoes for my lab internship, the answer was always, "Your sister needs that money for her summer program." That's when I learned I was not the star. I was the shadow. But by 25, it wasn't just neglect anymore. It was war. After the trash car incident, I locked myself in the basement. The single light bulb flickered above me. I wanted to scream, to cry, to run, but I sat still, my anger boiling quietly inside. I skipped dinner. I couldn't face them. Late that night, around 11 p.m., I heard knocking. My mom's voice cut through the door. "You going to stay down there and sulk, or are you going to clean up the trash you left all over the driveway?" I opened the door. Her face didn't soften. Her voice didn't shake. "You know what you are," she said, tapping her glass. "You're a leech with a fake education. Lena's building something real. You just stink up our space." Then she walked away before I could even answer. The next morning, the house was silent. My parents were gone. A note on the fridge said, "Road trip with Lena. Gone for the week. Don't mess up the house." I could have left. I could have walked out, but where would I go? I had only $93 in my account. No job yet. No offers. I called the only friend I had left in town, Cassie. No answer. I couldn't blame her. The last time she came over, my mom mocked her for bringing poor girl vibes to the porch. And then my phone buzzed. A message from Lena. It was a photo. My suitcase. Sitting on the curb. Text underneath, "Oops. Took a detour. Hope you like the new view." I ran outside. My suitcase was gone. Another call came. This time, it was my dad. "We dropped your stuff off," he said flatly. "You'll find it at 91st Street Shelter in Ashland. Best start learning how the world works. Let's see how you survive." Then he hung up. I stood there on the porch, barefoot, chest caving in like it was collapsing under its own weight. They had actually done it. They took my clothes, my ID, my laptop, my research notes, even my backpack. Everything gone. And all I could hear in my head was my mom's voice, "You stink up our space." Something inside me snapped. Not rage. Not screaming. Something else. Purpose. I walked to the only place I thought I could. My neighbor, Mrs. Talia. An older woman who had always asked me about school, who sometimes left cookies by the fence. She opened the door and gasped when she saw me. "Sweetheart, what happened to you?" I didn't lie. I told her everything. And she looked me in the eyes and said, "Well, I think it's about time someone taught them how survival actually works." She handed me $40 and the business card of her nephew, Malik, who ran a small vintage restoration shop 2 towns over. "Call him. He owes me a favor. You're smarter than they'll ever be." I looked at that card in my hand, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like trash. I felt like maybe something new was starting. Working at Malik's shop was brutal at first. I swept sawdust. I hauled heavy armoires. I sanded until my fingers bled. My back ached. My body screamed. But Malik never raised his voice. He watched. He taught. And when I finished reupholstering a bench I had worked on for 2 days straight, he looked at me and said, "You've got grit. That's rarer than talent." He didn't know it, but those words were the first kind ones I'd heard in years. With my small pay, I bought a used phone and 1 change of clothes from a thrift shop. I slept in the back room on a cot. Every night, I read books about woodwork and design. Because this wasn't just work anymore. It was survival. By the 3rd month, Malik gave me a client of my own. A widow who wanted her husband's old desk restored. I poured everything into it. Sanding. Polishing. Restoring. When she saw it, she cried. "I haven't seen it shine like this since our wedding." She paid me in cash, more than I'd ever held before. And in that moment, standing outside in the cold with that envelope in my hand, I realized. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was building something. Meanwhile, my family never called. Not once. Not to check on me. Not to mock me. Nothing. It was like I had been erased. But I hadn't forgotten them. One night, curiosity got the best of me. I searched Lena's name. Her Instagram was public. Her latest post showed her smiling in the backyard of my old home, champagne in hand. The caption read, "When dead weight finally disappears, life tastes like rose." The rage I thought I buried, it came back. But not like fire. Like ice. Clear. Steady. I decided I would not only survive. I would rise so high that I would eclipse them. I didn't go by my birth name anymore. That name was tied to their cruelty, their lies, their trash. I chose a new name. Rue Heart. Rue, because it meant sorrow. A reminder of the pain that shaped me. Heart, because it meant strength. A creature that survives, even when hunted. With every order, every client, every signature, Rue Heart became real. The girl who had been shoved into the trash no longer existed. 2 years passed. My small work became something bigger. Malik's shop grew, and I was part of it. But more importantly, my designs, dark wood, sharp lines, heavy carvings, started to get attention. People whispered about me. They said my pieces weren't just furniture. They were statements. They carried stories inside them. And then one night, an email came. From a woman I knew too well. "Hello, I'm looking for a custom dining table. My daughter is getting married and we want something unforgettable." It was my mother. She didn't know. She didn't recognize my new name. But I recognized her. I read that email over and over. And a smile spread across my face. I accepted. I designed a grand dining table. 10 feet long. Heavy oak. Dark, polished surface that shone like glass. But on the underside, hidden from plain sight, I carved something else. Words. Trash becomes stronger when burned. Rue heart. Every stroke of the blade was power. Every letter was my secret. When I delivered it weeks later, she didn't look twice at me. Just signed the papers, barely glancing my way. "Perfect," she said. Finally, something elegant. Elegant. She didn't know the truth. That table carried my mark. That table was mine. And it sat in their house like a silent witness. Months later, I heard whispers from neighbors. The family business had collapsed. My father's debts piled high. My mother's credit cards maxed out. And then, the house. Foreclosure. They had to sell. When I saw the listing online, my breath caught. Photos of the home I had once been thrown out of. Photos of my table still in the center of the dining room. I knew what I had to do. On the day of the open house, I arrived dressed in black. My hair tied back, my name on the guest list as a potential buyer. My parents were there, standing stiff, faces pale with forced smiles as strangers walked through their rooms, touching their things, judging their worth. I walked in, silent. My eyes scanned the walls, the stairs, the kitchen where I had once been told I stank up the space. And then I saw it. The table. Shining. Powerful. Carved beneath with my words. I ran my hand across it, slowly. My mother's eyes flicked toward me, but she didn't recognize me. I leaned down, pretending to check the woodwork, and whispered to myself. "I'm still here." Not long after, I met a young couple touring the house. Their clothes were simple. Their eyes hopeful. I pulled them aside, quietly. I told them I could help them with the auction. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know my story. But they trusted me. And when the house finally sold, it was to them. Not my parents. Not my sister. Strangers. Good people. People who deserved it. And my parents were left standing on the lawn, bags in hand, watching their empire vanish. But I wasn't finished. Weeks later, I delivered one final piece. A small wooden box. Plain on the outside. Smooth, polished, dark. Inside, lined with red velvet, sat a single carved word. Remember. I mailed it without a return address. I imagined them opening it. I imagined their hands shaking, their breath catching, realizing someone had been watching all along. They would never know it was me. Not truly. Not fully. But they would feel it. The way I had felt their cruelty for years. After that, I cut the last ties. I didn't check their names online. I didn't search their faces in the crowd. They no longer existed to me. And yet, sometimes, late at night, I still heard the echoes. The laughter. The mocking. The trash can lid slamming. But when I looked at the scars on my hands, at the furniture I built with strength and grit, I remembered. The trash they threw away had become fire. And fire consumes everything. This is my story. I was the unwanted child. The joke. The burden. I was pushed, mocked, discarded. But I rose. I didn't forgive. I didn't forget. I turned pain into power. And I made sure they learned one thing. When you throw someone away, you never know what they'll become. Sometimes, they come back as fire. Please like and subscribe for more videos, also comment where you're watching from.